And the TEAC that we decided to cover was 8.7b, which describes the impact of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. We tied it in with the ELAR TEACs by identifying the use of literary devices, including subjective and objective point of view. So for our, So for our activity, the activity just basically composes of like role playing. So the first we would, as an individual, students, we would read the expert right here, and I'll just go ahead and read it. It says it's 1865, 1866, and now the war is over. The war is the Civil War. This is a joyous time. The horrors of slavery have ended, and millions of gestures, large and small, Black people in America resisted slavery from the beginning in 1619. You won your freedom, and the 13th Amendment of the Constitution ended slavery once and for all. All through the summer of 1865, there have been parades and celebration. It is time of unbelievable excitement, but also apprehension. What exactly does freedom mean? What kind of lives will you have now? True, you are free to leave the plantation. You are free to go north, free to travel, free to seek last family members who have been sold off. But you're also free to starve, free to be attacked by angry whites seeking revenge, free to be kicked out of the homes by defeated plantation owners. Consider all the problems you have faced. For the last 250 years, enslaved Black people were robbed of their labor and their knowledge in order to make white people rich, and now in freedom, you own absolutely nothing. Even though you have lived your entire lives in the South, the sack you live in is owned by your former owner. Same with all the tools, work, animals, and seed. Even the clothes you have on are owned by the family that enslaved you. Most important, you own no land. Without land, you will always be dependent, always forced to serve the property owners. You want to farm your own land and grow food for your family. And there are problems. At least 90% of you are illiterate. Under slavery, it was a crime to teach an enslaved person to read or write. Some learned anyway, but most have no opportunity. Some of you own no guns. Almost all firearms in the South are owned by former enslavers and the whites who fought for the Confederacy. Remember, however, that the Union Army still occupies much of the South, and some Union soldiers used to be held in slavery like you. Also, you have no political rights. You can't vote. You can't vote or hold office. Long ago, your people were kidnapped in Africa, stuffed in the bellies of stinking slave ships, stripped from your language, dumped into a strange land, punished for practicing your religion, frequently separated from your family members, and of forced labor with a whip on your back. The wealth of this labor, both south and north, is because of your labor, your skills, your knowledge. You suffer too much, and whites have profited too much. For you to be forced to wander the countryside as beggars, this is not your idea of freedom. So basically students would read that, and the teacher will allow them to write for 10 minutes and write just what are their thoughts, what are they gonna do? So now that the Civil War is over and the Confederate leaders have surrendered government, has outlawed slavery, basically they would answer that question, what do you think will happen to the people who had until now or until recently just been enslaved? So they were gonna put themselves in the mindset of, I'm a recently freed African American. What am I going to do with my life? Yeah, I'm freedom, but what does freedom mean if I have no money, I have no land, I don't even own clothes? So for 10 minutes, they would independently, they would write their own idea, their own version of the role play. And then as the teacher, I would ask the students to share one of their pieces, and an example would be, I cannot believe what I'm hearing to be true. I'm a free man. No longer will I be slaved and subject to pain and torture. It is time of unbelievable excitement, but also apprehension. what exactly does freedom mean? Will I be able to go to school just like the other boys that are not slaves? Maybe I will be able to make my own choices and not have to always listen to what my master wants me to do. My major dream is to leave the South and go up north. I want to find my older brother I have not seen since a year ago. When he fled, when he was able to flee the South and move up north. I'll know if I am able to find him, it will make my mom and dad very happy. Maybe we will live together and be a family again. I hear my mom and dad saying that they're also afraid to go up north. We have no money and we do not know anyone up there. We have no education. We cannot read or write. And all we know is working on a plantation on cotton fields. I hear people saying that the North people work on factories, not the fields. Will we be able to find a job? How will we make money? Where would we live? Even though we don't have the answer to all these questions, I'm ready and eager for a new adventure. So that would be an example of the first part of the step one of individual writing this independently. Then I would like to, as a teacher, I would like to split the class into three groups. And in the groups, they're each of the groups is going to be given a situation, and as a group, the students would discuss about it and the different aspect of the reconstruction. So one of them right here, it's you are a part of a delegation of African Americans who up until recently have been enslaved. You're traveling to Washington, D.C. to demand legislation that will make up the free people become truly free and are able to advance socially, politically, educationally, and economically. Before you leave, there are a number of key questions that you must agree upon. These are difficult questions, and your answers to them could determine whether your future is one of progress or misery. So in small groups, they will have open discussions and attempt to reach a solution to the problem. This would be an example of group one, the situation. Right now, so this situation would be that there right now, almost no formerly enslaved people in the South own any land. Legally, most of you don't own the clothes you are wearing. So basically it's a lot of, and for the sake of time, I'm not probably gonna read it. So they would read this, and the question would be, now that the war's ended, who should own and control these plantations? Would you be willing to promise the Northern politicians that in exchange for acknowledging your right of the land, you would continue to grow cotton? So if you were able to keep the land, would you be able to, or would you be able to grow cotton? And an example of what an argument or arguments that would be happening in this group would be, in a summary, some of you argue that, of course, you have to give politicians this assurance, otherwise you'll get nothing from them. Others could argue like, look, we may not want to grow cotton, and we may not want to make promises to anyone, but we have to be realistic. These people care about Northern industries maintaining their supply of cheap cotton more than they care about you or your desires. It is better to get something than nothing. Others could argue that to offer this promise is to trade in one kind of slavery for another. What kind of freedom is it when you are forced to grow a crop you don't want to grow? Cotton is a sorrow crop associated with slavery. You can't eat cotton, and growing it makes you dependent on cotton dealers, which are all white, to market your product. And it makes you vulnerable to the prices of cotton growing up and go and down, something you will have no control. If it's your land, you should be able to grow what you want. So again, all of this is a role playing of you in as a new freed slave. So this would be an example of a group one. A group two, they would be given this situation where it says that, I believe it just, you're free, you're before the war, enslaved Blacks counted as a 3/5 of a person in determining how many US representatives of the state was entitled to, even though of course Blacks held in slavery cannot vote. Now that slavery has ended, Blacks will be counted as a full as a full people, whether or not they're allowed to vote. Ironically, if people were formerly enslaved don't vote, this can mean that all white controlled Souths would become even more powerful. So question would be in this group would be who should be allowed to vote in the New South? Should it be everyone, only formerly enslaved people, only those who were loyal to the United States during the war? And there's talks that all male citizens will be allowed to vote, including new Black males. So this would be an example of a situation given to another group. And possible arguments that could be made by students is this is a controversial and complicated issue. Some people say only those with land should vote because they are the ones who have the most stake in society and they are the most stable people. Some argue that only people who can read should be able to vote because otherwise people will not vote intelligently. Others say that this sounds good, but if land ownership or literacy were a qualification for voters, then people who would be able to vote again would be most likely the rich white people. Some argue that the Southerner who picked up arms against the U.S. government should not be allowed to vote. Again, that these people proved to be that they were disloyal to the United States should not be rewarded with the vote. Besides, anyone who supported the Confederacy and slavery will now use their vote to work against your freedom. Others believe that if you try to deny the vote to all those who support the Confederacy, that would mean taking it away from most white Southerners, and it would make them seem like you were trying to impose an African American government. And on the South, deny the vote, whites might turn to rebellion or terrorism and begin murdering African Americans. Another argument is that now it's time to demand a constitutional amendment that would give everyone the right to vote, including white men and white women, African American men and women. Freedom and democracy is in the air, and this is the time to create a whole new society based on equality. So this would be another example of a group given the previous situation. And then the third one is this would be the situation that they would be giving is most of the guns in the South are owned by white males or whites. Many of them who fought with the Confederacy still have their weapons from war. Temporarily, the South is occupied by the Union Army. Many white Southerners, probably most of them, would like nothing better than to return Black people to slavery. There have been talks of a new organization called the Ku Klux Klan, designed to terrorize Blacks and their white supporters and to restore white supremacy to the rule to the South. A question for this group would be, how will the newly Black freed people protect them from the revenge of the defeated soldiers from the plantation owners? And another question would be, as a newly American citizens, African Americans should have the right to own guns and weapons. An argument for this group, and a possible argument could be one proposal would be to keep the Union Army in the South and perhaps to bring in more troops. Some people argue that the Confederate Army might not be able to defeat the Union Army, but it would be able to defeat the newly freed African Americans. Therefore, the Union Army will be needed for years. Others argue that the presence of Union soldiers will continue to anger white Southerners, and some other solution must be found. Some argue that no Confederate should be allowed to own guns. Others counter that this would not be a solution and would continue to anger white Southerners. Some suggest that the Union Army should arm African Americans so that they can defend themselves from possible attacks from whites. Others say that more guns in the South will lead to more violence. So this would be another example of arguments in a given group. Again, you're thinking in the mindset of a new freely African American. And so the final step would be following their deliberation. So as a class, they would all discuss what their thoughts and their arguments based on the questions, and they would write a reflective. Would be an independent activity where they would do a short reflection about what they thought. A possible student reflection would be, these questions were hard to answer according to our role. You felt like you had to be realistic and honest about what happened, but at the same time, you wanted to think big and stand up for your full rights. The role playing activity gave us a better understanding for other people and a sense of empathy. And that's pretty much all that I have. Oops.
Yay, thank you, Priscilla. I liked your examples. And let's see. Yeah, I was about to say, I'm trying to get to my emojis over here so I can put it, there it is. There's our, or we can give some feedback there. But so now, guys, I have given you all the discussion prompts, and I sent them really quickly through the announcements too. So hopefully you see them one place or another at this point. And that just gives you a few things to give as far as feedback. What are some things we can tell them about this project? And, you know, looking at those discussions, what did it help you to learn? Thinking about them being 8th graders, was that appropriate, too easy, too hard, suggestions? So just look through those prompts or come up with your own feedback. And just to start, Priscilla, real quick, I definitely liked the way that you talk through the steps of the project and the way that it builds on each other. And I was thinking, what is that final product going to be? And that's what you said at the final step, that they would be able to have that reflection and really share about how that role playing helped them to, you know, deeply engage in understanding that perspective. And so I had jotted down a couple of things there, but let me hear from a few of you. Let's just give a couple of things, you know, so we can give the group some feedback as to what we just saw. Anybody jump in?
Hi, Priscilla. I wanted to know what specific parts of the project did you like the most?
I think just in all, like I think the activity is what I like the most, just being able to like, I mean, they're 8th graders, they already understand like social events. So being able to like allow a 8th grader to put themselves in a situation or the shoes of, you know, a past events, and you know how, I guess, easier in some ways we have, like they have it now compared to, you know, back in the day, and just be able to know the country that they came from. But yeah.
Hi, Priscilla. I wanted to ask you an example of how would you modify this project for diverse learners, like for differentiation?
On the lesson, I actually kind of forgot. I wanted them, before this, I forgot. I wanted them to, of course, research what the 13th Amendment means, what the 14th Amendment and the 15th Amendment means. And I think a way to modify it is allowing them to go online. And I know there's like a lot of videos and a lot of like resources that they could use that, especially if you have learners that 100%, you know, they're not there, their reading level is not 100% there yet. They could just easily watch like a video, or have like group discussions like, okay, well, what is research like each amendment? Well, what does it mean to you? What does it mean to, you know, your partner? That way they could all, you know, collaborate in some way and discuss like their different responses and such.
Let's hear one more comment for Priscilla. Who wants to jump in?
So your presentation was a lot of like students doing and like writing. So you integrated ELAR a lot into it, which I personally liked because, you know, you see the development of their thought process in the writing. But how would you help a student like English language learner with this activity since it includes a lot of writing and reading?
Ooh, that's a good one. You got me there.
Great question.
Um, I think I would help them by probably partnering them up with someone who's stronger, and they can have like maybe not allow him to have more writing, but just to have more open discussions about it. And of course, providing more like I'm pretty more books because I did through my research. I did find a lot of books that had a lot of visuals. So I think that letting them go through, the books, and it's like, okay, they'll be able to understand more, especially, for the ELR students or English language learners. But yeah, definitely a lot of like group activity, I think would facilitate that gap. Or even they could even like record themselves just saying it, not necessarily have to write it.
Good, Priscilla. Way to bring in those strategies. That's exactly, just that extra support in whatever way they would need it when it comes to scaffolding to get that information. But they're still able to engage in that role playing, but maybe it is done through videos, or they have different peers that are helping them to, be able to express themselves fully with their thoughts and ideas. So I think all of that is great. Different things to think about there, good strategies, and how you might incorporate those ELLs. So that was a great question. Okay, guys, so that's just a good example. A few of you giving them feedback and just really giving some different ideas or ways that we might look at that project. But let's go ahead and go on to our next one in our government group. And again, Priscilla, thank you and good job being the first group to get started. So we appreciate your examples there. And let's go on to our next group, just keeping on in kind of the same pattern with presenting and then having a little discussion following. So who's going to take the Marlene or Jackie?
I believe Jackie's going to share her screen. So before we get started, I want to share what our project is about. We actually did this delivery instruction by creating a magazine. And the grade that this is for 6th grade. We will be we spoke about power and authority. The tics that we used were, so the student will understand the difference between limited and unlimited government. They will be able to describe and compare examples of limited and unlimited government, such as constitutional and totalitarian government. They would be also able to identify reasons for limiting the power of the government. And the ELAR tics that we included for this is that the students will be paired up in 2 or 3, and they'll provide a organized presentation such as this magazine. They will create it by writing, brainstorming, and using resources such as technology. Some of the main questions that we hit while creating this magazine was, who rules the government? Why do we have a government? What is a limited government? And what is an unlimited government? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start off by reading page 1. Let me see if I can. So the header of this is, what is a government for the 6th grade level, and why is it important? A government was created to provide structure and laws to ensure that the nation is secure and treated fairly. The US contains laws to deliver a system that administers laws and rules to protect citizens. It's important for the community to follow these laws to prevent chaotic events in the community and throughout the nation. Each state has a state legislator that makes laws in their own state. However, the state court must review the laws to decide if the laws agree with the state constitution. If it does not, then the law will be invalid. Let me see. Jackie, can you go on and read page 2, please?
Yes. And every individual in the United States has the right to participate in the U.S. government in various ways. The United States contains various types of government, such as communist, contains very type of government as communist, socialism, democratic, and oligarchy, aristocracy, monarchy, theocracy, colonialism, and totalitarianism. In this article, we will define limited and unlimited governments that help people distinguish the difference between governments and unlimited governments. The leader power and limited, such as a totalitarian government that governs power has no limits. The government power is usually controlled by the ruler and its people. However, in the limited government, the leader is limited by the establishing limits and restraints that can. Okay, the leader is limited by the establishing restraints that can contain actions by state or constitutional rules. The power of a limited government has regulations that are written by the Constitution, the people, and on the Constitution. What is an unlimited government? An unlimited government is a government that has total control over its citizen. The government has no limit in their power. The government chooses who can run in an election. Citizens must ask for permission to leave the country. Usually literacy levels are low. Anyone who disagrees with the government is arrested. An example is a total monarchy. And a monarchy is run, the country is run by a monarch, and usually that monarch is chosen because their parent was a monarch. In a dictatorship, one person rules and has absolute control. In an oligarchy, there are two or more people who are in control. What is limited government? Limited government is a government where the people have rights and have set limits that are given by the people. Some examples are the United States, the United Kingdom, and France. The government and the people work hand in hand to help their citizens. Consequences for not respecting authority is disobeying laws can result in consequences such as court hearings and can lead to imprisonment depending on the case or organization. Sorry.
So I could go ahead and share the.
Sorry. And just finishing up. Sorry.
I could go ahead and share the purpose of this activity. So the purpose of this is for the students to reflect on limited and unlimited government and explore why government is important to the nation. As I mentioned before, we would be using social studies and writing skills. to complete this assignment. And I think that's it.
Okay, good. I really like the newsletter and that example of a different way for students to share. So what was the grade level? I was trying to jot that down and I think I missed it.
6th grade?
6th grade? Okay. Okay, so that really makes you think about the work that the students are doing there to pull together that information and what kinds of things that they have to include and the type of writing that they're including there. So what questions do you have? What comments? Let's hear from about 3 different ones of you. You can look at your discussion prompts to help
Hi,
you.
Marlene. I wanted to know how you would modify the newsletter for English language learners.
So we actually thought about assisting them by providing sentence stems and providing a good partner that could help guide them throughout this activity.
Good strategy. Who else would like to jump in? Comments, questions, ideas? A couple more. Okay, so do I need to start calling on a couple of you because I want you guys to engage in
I got one.
discussion. Thank you. Yay.
All right. Okay, so what would be an example of a sentence stem that you would provide the students?
I think we could help them by starting off with a sentence that says, the blank government, is in charge of this or has the power of. I think a sentence stem that provides blanks that they could fill in.
Good. Thank you, Marlene. Okay, I want to hear from one more. We're trying to give every group at least 3 comments, guys. So that's why I provided those prompts to really give you some different ideas of things that you can share.
Did you yourself or did y'all learn anything new from this project?
Yes, we actually learned a lot about the unlimited government. I was actually confused, to be honest, about limited and versus unlimited. So we were able to clarify.
Great. Thank you, guys, and thank you for the feedback. So yes, I also had noted that I think that that's probably a good resource for some of us to really look through and find actual details about those 2 types of government and what is included in each and the way that they set it up, giving you some reflection questions and examples. And so it really is a helpful way to show the understanding of that objective. So thank you to this group and to both groups representing government. So did you throw out your clapping emojis and smiley faces there for them? Give them their little nonverbal feedback as well. We appreciate that. Okay, guys, let's move on to citizenship. I really am liking your examples so far. Let's see what else you have. And if you haven't given feedback yet, then kind of think about which question might fit in as you're watching the next presentation. That's part of your participation, is giving feedback to your partners, your peers. So let's see, we have citizenship group. Who wants to jump in from that group?
Brenda, did you want to go first?
Yes.
Okay.
You're first.
Okay, we'll go first. I'll share my screen.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes, we see it.
Okay, cool. So Brenda and I, we did it over citizenship, and so within citizenship is the right to vote. So the way we're gonna present is first we're gonna say what our project is about, and then we're gonna present it as if we are the students. So our project is over the right to vote. And then I don't know if Brenda wanted to do the next slide.
Yes, here are our takes. So for our social studies take, we have 7.15, citizenship. The student understands the right and responsibilities of Texas citizens in a democratic society. The student is expected to explain civic responsibilities of Texas citizens and the importance of civic participation. And for our ELAR take, we put a 7.11C composition. The student uses genre characteristics and crafts to compose multiple texts that are meaningful. The student is expected to compose multi-paragraph argumentative text using genre characteristics and crafts.
So the purpose of our project is that students will gain knowledge and hands-on experience by creating a persuasion and ad campaign over the importance of voting. And obviously this is the highest level from Bloom's taxonomy because they're able to create something. So they're able to really truly show how well they understood the topic of voting. So
So our two driving questions that the students are going to think about throughout the project is why it's important to vote as responsible citizens, and what are ways that we can persuade people to vote.
So summary of the project, I know we've talked a lot about the project, but we haven't really told what it is students will learn about the different duties a citizen has in their community, and they will focus on the importance of voting and why everyone should do it. Students will use their creativity skills to create a campaign video that motivates their community to vote. Each student is expected to create a script before filming their video. The script will help students to organize their thoughts before they film. Students will be using persuasive techniques and emotional appeals in order to create a moving video to show to the class. Students will then vote whether or not the video persuaded them to vote. So we're incorporating ELAR TEKS in this part of the project because they are going to be using different persuasive techniques and emotional appeals. Students will get together with a partner and create a short video that encourages citizens from their community to go out and vote. Students will use persuasive and emotional appeals again to convince people, and they'll get creative and use video applications to record and edit in order to come out with a nice and organized final product.
So here is our final product. So we're going to present it as 7th graders. So hi, my name is Brenda.
And hi, my name is Megan. And sorry, my name is Megan. And we are 7th graders who just learned about the duties of citizens in America. We learned about how important it is for citizens to be involved in their community. And in specific, we learned all about the right to vote and our job as citizens to vote in both small and major elections. We were able to use our creativity skills to create a video that encourages our community to go out and vote. We used lots of persuasive techniques in order to make our video and move our audience. And I'll play that video, sorry. As we have the right to vote. That privilege is protected by the Bill of Rights, which is the first 10 amendments of the Constitution. This wasn't always the case. Hundreds of years of hard work and suffering had to pass in order for voting to be equal for everyone. We have many influential men and women of color who have fought relentlessly to thank for this.
To benefit through job growth, better healthcare, better education, better infrastructure, a better economy, safer neighborhoods, and most importantly, a better quality of life for your families. Your vote truly matters.
We need people to go out and vote in both big and small elections. Our communities are made up of friends, loved ones, neighbors, family, and children. Some may not know how important it is to vote, while others may not have the privilege to be able to go out and vote. Make the decision to vote for yourself and to vote for those around you. When you cast your ballot, think of the future of the children who are being raised in America. Think of the immigrants who are in search of a better place and a better future. We ask that everyone be voting with kindness and with compassion.
So take the time to make sure your voice is heard and go out and vote.
So that concludes our presentation of our final product. We hope that our presentation over voting has persuaded you to go out and vote. In the next elections, we as 7th graders don't have the opportunity to go out and vote, but your votes do impact us. So as citizens, it is our duty to do what is best for our community, and voting allows us to make a change. And that is
That's our presentation.
Yay, I love that. That was an awesome example, guys. I really like that organization to start with. So really nicely put together and a great example of a final product there. So that was really cool in the way that you integrated in the video. So great example there. I see a lot of little emojis and hearts coming out. So that's some nice feedback. Let's get specific about some things that you can tell this group. Let's hear from at least 3 of you, but yes, thank you so much for the work that you did there. Who wants to jump in? Anybody?
Hey guys, I really liked your project, and what I noticed the most is that you really see a representation of diversity in the project. On the video specifically, the example that you gave us as students, it's like the modeling for what you want. And if you show this to your students before they turn in their projects, they get an idea of what to see, what to use in their own videos. So I really like that about it, because you didn't really have specific for what images to use, what topics to cover, but you gave them that idea indirectly through the video.
Thank you. Yes, we really try to incorporate what the students or what's happening around them. And so we wanted to make sure that we incorporated some of history and something that's happening now. Especially there is a lot of younger audience, and you see that representation that's like towards the end of the video with I believe her name is Amanda Gorman.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and she did a very, very impactful speech at the White House, and many people saw it, and I think that was we had to include that into our video.
I have a question. So I know you guys presented this to us as 7th graders. So in your classroom, would you still present this to your students as if you were 7th graders so that they could see this from their point of view as a student to help them understand a little better?
I think we just present it like as like, here's an example. I think we did that so that way that y'all can see what this class would look like presenting it. But if we were teachers, I don't think we'd be like, hey, we're 7th graders, here's our project. I think we'd just be like, hey, this is what is expected of you. So here.
Marlene, go ahead and jump in. Or is that just clapping? Or my class is not working right?
Yes, I was just clapping.
Okay, sorry. I didn't know it was actually moving there. Okay, so that's 3 comments, guys. That's great feedback and good questions too, because it is a good example of a demonstration that you would give for your students to say, look, this is what is expected of you, and fully expect that you would be able to do this project, even at a higher quality than what I'm sharing with you, because, they do have different skills than we even expect. And so that really gives them an opportunity to pull that together. I bet that some would really thrive under a project like that, to really be able to use those technology skills, or giving them other ways. And that's some of the other questions on the prompts. If you open it up to, just like they said, just share your creativity, then maybe you would see a lot of other posters or drawings or things that you wouldn't expect as products from your students. So that was one great example of what they might share, though. So thank you so much. That was awesome, and a great way of sharing what those 7th graders might be pulling together. What about the other citizenship group? If you guys want to jump in now.
Hello, it's me and Mariela. I don't know if she's in here.
Okay. Yes.
Yes, I'm here. Sorry. Who wants to share? You want me to share the screen? Okay. Oh, go ahead.
There we go. Okay. So we did it on citizenship, and we did it on a 6th grade level. Our strand was understand and applies the purpose of rules and laws, the relationships between rules, rights, and responsibilities, the fundamental right of American citizens guaranteed in the Bill of Rights and other amendments to the United States Constitution, and the individual role in making and enforcing rules and ensuring the welfare of society. We put our TEEKs at the bottom, which is the students understands the relationship amongst individuals, rights, responsibilities, duties, and freedoms in society where representative government. The student is expected to identify and explain the duty of civic participation in societies with representative government and explain relationships amongst rights, responsibilities, and duties in society with representative government. Our objective is the student will explain the process of becoming a citizen, including how a citizen protected under the U.S. Constitution, and explain the responsibilities of a citizen. We have our strand right here and our TEEKs. We included our driven questions. Some vocabulary terms that we would use during the lesson will be citizen, a person who owns allegiance to the government and who is entitled to government and who is entitled to protection. CNAS, count of the population, civics, social science, dealing with the rights and duties of the citizen. Responsibility, the state of fact of having a duty or deal with something, or of having control over someone. And then we have a small little activity in a book that will be read.
So
And
basically,
then this,
oh, I was gonna go discuss about the book. So
Oh, go ahead.
basically, they will go through the book and they'll brainstorm, locate the information of the process of becoming a citizen, and then that's where they'll include, like, they'll do a research on their duties, responsibilities, and rights of a citizen. You can go to the next.
For our final project, we decided to do a podcast presentation. Mariela, do you want to try sharing it? Maybe it's working on yours.
Yes. So basically, like, after they do their research, the students will be able to create a podcast and share with each other, like, questions, and have that's like creative discussion based on becoming a citizen and the duties of a citizen. Let me share it. Sorry, I'm trying to share it, but it's giving me this system preference. Give me just a second.
Is it not letting you play it?
I'm using a Mac computer and it's saying system locked due to promise, like needs authorization to share it. I'm not sure why I'm getting like that error
Well,
message.
do you want to send the link and maybe
Yes,
you can
definitely.
open it up here and I can share my screen?
Yes.
I have y'all slides. Do you want me to share it?
Please, well, let me see if the link works. If I copy and paste it, I'm not sure why mine's is giving me like an authority.
Megan, if you want to go ahead and try it, that might help.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see if it'll let me pull it up on my computer and then I'll share it.
Sorry, guys.
It's okay.
I requested access, Mariela, so y'all.
Yeah.
for your slides.
What's your email?
Mine?
Yes.
SALGAMEG17@gmail.com.
Okay, it's been shared. Not sure if you can see it.
Not yet. I don't see it yet. Okay, so I see the link over here. Try to pull it up this way. Okay, so I have it here. So then let me go ahead and share my screen. Share sound. Screen. Okay, so everybody sees this? There we go.
Hi, Mariela.
Hello.
How are you today?
Great. How are you doing?
I'm good too.
Awesome.
Are you ready to learn about citizenship?
I'm ready. So we'll be discussing becoming a citizen and the roles and responsibilities of a citizen.
Yes, and let's start off with this question, Mariela. So what are the duties of a citizen?
There are different duties of a citizen. For example, obeying the law, paying taxes, serve on a jury if asked, defend the U.S. and the Constitution, and of course, attend school.
Wow, okay, that's very good to know.
Yes, very important as well. So how do you become a citizen? To begin, we know we have duties and responsibilities of a citizen. However, how do we become a citizen?
So you become a citizen, there are two ways. Either one will be called the law of the blood, which means your parents are US citizens. And then secondly, which is more common, and I think we can identify with that law, is the law of the land. So you are born in the US land, a US Army base or a US hospital base, even if it's another country. So it does not matter the country, but as long as you are born in the US land. So there are 7 steps, and those 7 steps consist of being 18 years older, you must live in the US for at least 5 years, you demonstrate a good moral character, so you have to be a good citizen, just like the characteristics that you had mentioned earlier. The fourth thing we have, you must have a basic concept of the principles and understanding of basic English. So you must have at least some basic knowledge of English. And the fifth we have, you must demonstrate a basic knowledge of the US history. And for that, you have to take a test, which has the history of the United States. And you must know the basic civic principles. 6, we have, you must take an oath of allegiance to the US. And lastly, you will, in During a period of time, you will receive a certificate that will show that you are a U.S. citizen.
Awesome, great. This is good information for people who want to become a citizen. That's great.
Yes, it is. So what would you say, what are some rights of a citizen?
Some rights include, of course, freedom of speech and expression, freedom of religion. We have, especially in America, we have a diverse of different cultures. Um, Rights to petition, life, liberty, and happiness.
And what would you say, what are the responsibilities of a citizen?
Some responsibilities as a citizen, be informed and vote, which is one of the most important ones. Being able to be informed of your community, your country, state, so that way we have the opportunity to vote for the right government, the right president. All citizens who are 18 years and older have the right to vote. Participate in government and within the community events, respect the rights and property of others, respect different opinions and ways of life.
Wow, Mariela. Wow, this was a really informative podcast. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you so much for sharing with us.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you for providing us the information on how to become a citizen, because they're all combined. A first process will be becoming a citizen and then knowing the rights, duties, and responsibilities of a citizen.
Right, right. Well, have a good day.
Thank you for sharing your information.
Yes. Bye.
Okay.
Hi, Mariela.
Oh, shoot.
Hello.
I'm just trying to stop it there. Okay, that's fun. I like that. Anybody, you want to finish wrap anything up there, guys, before we start discussing?
No, I think that was it. I think we did everything.
Okay, good. Well, I definitely like the way your whole group kind of worked together as far as organization goes, with pulling that PowerPoint as a way of sharing. And then those final products were really awesome examples. That podcast is funny. It really seems like something I could see or be hearing on the radio with you all talking back and forth like that. So feedback for this group, guys, discussion, some little heart emojis, anything coming out here after watching that? Anybody jump in? You can get back to those discussion questions and see our prompts, see what you can share or ask. Somebody who hasn't participated or given feedback, let's hear from you.
I have a question.
Good.
What specific part of the project did you like the most? Like, what part was your favorite to do?
I think for me personally, it was the podcast, because it's like, I guess it reminded me when I was in high school and I would present, and how you had to, it was different than presenting now when you're in the university. So it was really fun to just put it all together and get the questions.
I'm gonna have to see the podcast as well, because like we both gather our own questions and stuff, and then like when we met up, we had like we actually had a discussion like an actual podcast. The only thing is that we were taping ourselves, but we had like a lot of questions and a lot of like, hey, how you found that, or like, hey, we didn't even knew some of them because we didn't knew like the actual process of becoming a citizen. So that was probably one of the fun parts.
Good. I think that makes sense when you think about that's probably the most engaging part, the part that students would like the most too. But at the same time, you're sharing important information there. So kind of had some multi-purpose there. Let's hear from a couple more.
I have a question. What type of differentiated techniques or strategies could you incorporate to this lesson?
I think maybe it wouldn't necessarily have to be a podcast. It can be something like not a worksheet, but different groups with different activities that are able to branch out differently and come together as a whole to create the whole concept of what is a citizen and how do you become a citizen. So maybe like not a debate, but like a different form of style other than a podcast.
Good. Anybody else want to jump in? Comments, suggestions, questions?
Did you learn anything new from this presentation?
Yes, I think we learned since many of us are citizens, so we don't know the process of everything, and we hear about it, but to actually know all the different steps from it and how you become a citizen and the process that it takes. And I didn't know that you had to be 18 years or older to become a citizen.
Correct, like Leslie stated, and I mentioned earlier on the podcast, like some of the stuff we weren't really aware. I mean, we know the duties and responsibilities and the rights you have, but like some of the process, it's like you have to be 18, you have to submit an application and then get qualified for it, and then actually take a test as well. So it's actually a process they go through into becoming a citizen, and it all aligns together, because once you become a citizen, it's like now you have to follow up those duties and responsibilities and your rights as a citizen that you automatically have once you become one. So yeah, it was a learning process. It was fun, engaging, and that's it.
Good. Okay, good, guys, and good discussion. Thank you for jumping in with some questions. We have just a couple more groups now. So great examples there. Thank you to our citizenship group for that organization and for providing some great demonstration of what those products could look like, and really thinking about how engaging those could be for the students. Okay, so our history group, whoever wants to jump in from there.
I can go first.
Okay, Jessica.
Go ahead and present my screen here. Okay, so I did 6th grade. Our strand was history, and I focused on the Civil War movement. So just to cover the teaks here, I did history 6-1, which is, or I'm sorry, 6-1B, which is to analyze the historical background of various contemporary societies to evaluate relationships between past conflicts and current conditions, and also to evaluate social, political, economic, and cultural contributions of individuals and groups from various societies, past and present. For the ELAR teaks, we are developing drafts into focused, structured, coherent pieces of writing, developing an engaging idea, reflecting depth of thought with specific facts and details, and using an appropriate mode of delivery, whether written, oral, or multimodal, to present results. So my driving questions were, in what ways, because we're focusing on the Civil War movement and how we had influential leaders who were trying to get the national attention of a call to action. So my driving questions were, in what ways can media available at the time, like print, radio, and television, help move the events taking place locally to national attention? And then the second question is, why do we say that civil rights movement is never ending? And the third is, how can we evaluate the long-term success of civil rights movement by comparing its goals of racial equality from past to the goals of the present day United States? So the students, they're going to do some research with all the books and sources that I provide them. So they are going to have a couple questions just to kind of influence their research. Well, before that, they're going to be grouped into groups of 3, and I'm going to have one group or a couple of groups. They're going to focus on past day issues, and then the other half of the class, their groups are going to be on present day issues. So these are just some of the questions that they're going to be looking for when they're doing their research, which are social problems that occurred, life during the civil rights movement, influential leaders and their call to actions, powerful messages that persuaded others to take action, media used to reach national attention, changes that were achieved from the fight for equality, and how are things different now than they were then? What things could be changed now? What is the best way to reach national attention to take action and make the changes needed for a better society? So when they have their assigned, whether they're doing past or present, they're going to look at these questions and kind of get more information about what they need to focus on. And they're going to have the option of whether they want to focus, do like a oral presentation, like a podcast, a newsletter, a flyer, a letter, just something that's going to give them an opportunity to persuade others to join the movement. So they, and if they wanted to do like, if I wanted to do like differentiated learning, like for different types of needs, like ELL or like special needs, then I would have a time to do one-on-one with them so that we can discuss like what they want to focus on and what their strengths are. What do they feel comfortable doing, as far as do they feel better doing maybe something that's like a podcast? Like, are they better with oral speaking? Do they feel like they want to do like a newsletter? Are they good writers? Like, we just have that conversation and they can kind of evaluate their strengths and weaknesses as well. So this is me as a 6th grade student, and this is a flyer. If I was in a group focusing on the past, this would be a flyer to boycott the Montgomery buses. So it would be like an example of something that they could create that would be seen on the streets to kind of call attention to action. So we have, you know, boycott Montgomery buses, 50,000 people will walk again, support them until victory is won. And then it says, if you need a ride, come to, and then it has an address. So Miss Rosa Parks was just arrested. And then it says, wake up, end segregation. We deserve to ride buses and be treated as equals, just as much as white people. We deserve equality. We all bleed red. Miss Rosa Parks was arrested for not giving up her seat on the bus for a white person. We need this treatment to end. And then if I was a group that was focusing on present day issues, and this is just an example, I made like a Facebook post. Obviously, you know, we don't want them like actually posting things that, you know, they're underage and stuff, but just, you know, use your imagination and see what you can come up with. And obviously, Facebook, Twitter, all of those things are just really big platforms where you can really get the attention of people. So this is just like a post that I made as a sample student. It says, this Saturday, we will come together for a march and peaceful protest. We will gather in downtown Dallas near Amberton Park at 4 p.m. and walk downtown as a demonstration that we need to make changes for our justice system. The goal is to bring awareness to the unjust deaths handled by police officers. We need to make changes to officer protocols to stop the use of deadly force. Please join us in fighting for justice, the safety of our communities. And this could go, you know, like just, it could go in different directions. Just, they have to focus on what type of issues we have in present day that they would like to kind of bring to attention and kind of make a persuasive argument so that, you know, it could call the attention of others to take action. And then this is my rubric. I would focus on, you know, their organization, the content, the relevance, the presentation, and the power of the message that they made, and just kind of evaluate whether if they have a weak organization or content, or if it's kind of, you know, it's there, but it still needs a little bit more, or if they have like a strong project that that's the way that I would evaluate that. And that's all I have.
Nice job. Nice examples again. I like those different examples again of the persuasive genre. So we're seeing a lot of hand clapping there, and appreciate that work too. Okay, guys, so what discussion do you have for Jessica? Give her some feedback about the work that you just saw, thinking about the 6th grade lesson that she just shared.
Hi,
And I
Jessica.
really did, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Hi, Jessica, you did a very good job. I just want to know, which of the Marzano's instructional strategies did you include in your project?
Hi, Brenda. So as far as Marzano's strategies, I think I incorporated cooperative learning, because they are being grouped together. So they're going to be kind of learning together about what they want to include and focus on whether they're doing past or present. They're also going to be doing well, I would be doing like setting expectations and then providing feedback, which is one of the strategies as well. So I'm giving them a prompt and I'm giving them driving questions. I'm giving them the resources and giving them my expectations, and they can come to me for feedback so that they can kind of perfect their project. And that would be the type of strategies that I would include.
Very good. Who
Hi,
else?
Jessica. I have a question. You said, if I understood correctly, that the expectations for the project and the how the product, it will depend on the conversation before the project, right? They will decide the issue that they want to talk about. And I was just wondering if you were to narrow down the options for the result, the final work, to limited options, like just have a certain way, like a post, or do you think it's better to have a free range of expression?
I really want to give them just kind of different options, because I want them to kind of evaluate like what they feel more comfortable with. Because, you know, if we have like ELL students, some of them, they feel like they might be more powerful orally or just artistically. Like I want to give them an option to where they can find something that makes them, you know, kind of like us, like we have our different ways of explaining what we want to explain. Like some people do PowerPoint, some people do like just posters. I mean, just anything that kind of, you know, it gives them, because they're like kind of in a higher grade. I want to give them more just options to where they can look at what I need from them and then evaluate how they can present that and still meet my expectations.
Hi, Jessica. I want to ask, what is something new you learned while making this presentation?
Well, I learned a little bit more about the civil rights movement, about just kind of like looking at the books that I was searching for their sources. I did learn a lot. I mean, I did know some things already, but just kind of getting more in depth with, you know, how they were doing their calls to action to get national attention. I learned more about that. And I also learned about, you know, how we can kind of, like I was saying earlier, like giving them options and stuff, like just kind of brainstorming as a student when I was doing the examples, just trying to get into that mentality as a sixth grader. So I did learn a lot about that.
Okay, very good, guys. Thank you for the feedback and discussion. Nice job, Jessica. Okay, I think we have one more group for today in history. So who wants to take over?
I can go. Okay, okay, so before I show the final product, what we did, our strand is also history, and what we did a timeline. So that's what we're gonna get overall after each student has had an event. So there's gonna be 4 major events, and they're each from different centuries. Each student will be able to do something different. Just like for our final product, we did a newspaper. Other students are going to be able to do a oral presentation, a blog, a magazine, just like kind of like what we did. And let me see. Let me share my screen. Okay. And then, well, Laura, do you want to do the summary first?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
Okay, so basically, the students will read a variety of first and secondary resources of the Revolutionary War, Civil War, and the Great Depression, and also 9/11. The students will be using a brainstorm web. In the center of the web, where they will place the event, and all around it, they will include important details over the event. They would do research over who was involved, what happened, why, and where it happened. And then they're going to go into small groups. They will get together to find information over the major events assigned to them. They can even split up the work in which two of them will write, the other two will speak, and all contribute one or two key details over their assigned event. So the way we will lead students to the final project is by giving them an example of how their final project should look like, and that will be a newspaper. This is the brainstorm web that they're going to be completing, I'm sorry. And some ideas that they can use will be like some books. What was the Great Depression? Another book is Children of the Great Depression. And this article of how 9/11 changed the world. There are many ideas that they can use. And this was a pretty interesting picture about the President of the United States when he found out about the 9/11 attack. So there were just, these are just some ideas of the students, what they're gonna be using. And then Viviana, you wanna share the newspaper?
Okay, there we go. Okay, so we named it the US Times. The title is September 11th Attack. So the beginning is on September 11th, 2001, a group of terrorists known as Al-Qaeda hijacked four airplanes. Out of the four airplanes, two planes were flown into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York City. One hit the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia, and the fourth plane crashed in a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. After the Twin Towers were struck, they collapsed and created clouds of dust and smoke. About 2,996 people were killed in the 9/11 attack. Those who passed away were first responders, flight attendants, those in the Twin Towers and the Pentagon building, the ones in the airplane, and people from 78 different countries. The reason the 9/11 attack happened was because Al-Qaeda retaliated against America's support of Israel during the Persian Gulf War. On May 2nd, 2011, the leader of Al-Qaeda, Osama bin Laden, was killed by US forces.
And on September 11, 2001, life changed in the United States due to a terrorist attack that occurred. As of now, today's international security environment is now complicated and challenging. There is a maximum of security at airports with strict restrictions. The 9/11 event impacted America in many ways. However, the defense budget and the security are one of the main consequences. With that being said, additional funding after the 9/11 event, emergency departments such as firefighters and the paramedics were giving the opportunities to strengthen their technology and more communication. Even though this horrific terrorist attack changed the world and made an impact in America, it demonstrated that America is united and that September 11, 2001 brought the best in us. So that was just an example of what students are going to be doing. They can use the 9/11 or they can use any other events. And that's all for us.
Okay, good. I like the newspaper example. Good job, guys. Thank you for that. And you pulled out a couple of different options of how they might choose to present. So very nice demonstration there. Okay, guys, jump in and give some feedback, some discussion to our history group, this last group. Let's hear from about 3 of you, please.
Hello, Viviana. You did a very good job. I just want to know if there's any like things that you might want to have changed or have done differently.
I think something I would have done differently is probably added a bit more pictures. I know there was only 3, but I mean, there was more information, and I think with pictures, students would be able to see like the vocabulary words in the in the newspaper and then relate them to the visuals. Because I know I said something about dust clouds, and I know you can relate the dust clouds with the image of the Twin Towers that was burning.
Okay, a couple more.
What is something you guys learned while making this presentation? And what did you enjoy?
I think I enjoyed doing the newspaper, but something that I learned was that all this time it was two airplanes that hit the Twin Towers, but I learned that it was 4 airplanes, and it wasn't just the Twin Towers, it was the Pentagon and the field. So that was kind of surprising to me.
Yeah, I also learned about, because I did not know about the president finding out about the attack while he was at a high school, I believe. So that was pretty interesting, and just to see his face, how he found out, it was like touching.
How would you modify this project for diverse learners?
I think pairing up a student with another English language learner.
Okay, thank you guys. Nice job and nice discussion. It is good to reflect on what makes it easier, what makes it harder, some things that you could do differently. And it's really just things that you can add, maybe like as you're looking at it again. So but I think you gave a great example and everybody gave a great demonstration. I think it is always that, that whole exercise of reflecting on if it actually was a lesson, then how did the students respond? Where did you really see that you could have given more challenge or less more support? And really reflecting to see what to do differently the next time. But guys, the project, the real expectation there was that in part one, you're giving us that content of your strand that's helping us to learn about your strand. And now in part two, that you're sharing a demonstration on how that teaching will look within your strand, pulling out TEKS objectives. So tonight, you all have given some great examples of that. And really, I'm excited to see those products that you all shared and, giving us different perspectives, different ideas, and, just really good examples. And really what you want to shoot for when you're in the classroom and you're planning these plans for your students. Because like some of you said, what I enjoyed the most was really engaging, doing the project. And I think that that's pretty similar to what we'll hear from students in your classrooms as well. So very good job. That was fun and good examples. And so next week, we're going to do pretty much the same thing with sharing and hearing from our last 3 groups. So at this point, guys, you should have those project part 1 submitted. There's an assignment link. There's a Google folder. And so make sure you're putting yours up there. After we finish presenting next week, we'll look at those together. Make sure you have your practice test questions submitted. There's assignment links for all of that. Because, like I've told you guys, I'm using those test questions to help us, kind of quiz over what all was included in part 1 of your project. So that's how we're using that. So now we're going ahead and wrapping up, and next week we'll see our final 3 projects and really kind of do an evaluation and talk a little bit more about what we're doing as we finish up everything else. So guys, thank you so much for your work and everything that you put together so far. Just make sure you're getting things submitted there in the links, and anybody else that hasn't presented, feel free to reach out if you want to talk more about it. But hopefully seeing what you saw tonight really might answer questions and expectations for what you can be doing for next time. Okay, guys, so that's what I have for you. Thank you so much and have a good rest of your night. Stick around if you have questions. Otherwise, I will see you next week. Bye-bye, guys. Thank you.
Dr. Rodriguez.